Validated. Yeah, getting a commission from Blyth is really exciting for me because I wrote Courting Johanna, which was in the 2008 season, and I have grown so much as a playwright since then, so it just feels like a second chance. There's always a special place in my heart for Courting Johanna, and I wouldn't be here if that one hadn't come first. That I'm writing is set in 19th century Toronto, and it is inspired by the true story of James Mink, who was a millionaire. He ran a livery stable, he owned a hotel near where the St. Lawrence Market is now, and he also happened to be Black. I just feel that stories just aren't being told. There's certain stories that just get brushed under the carpet, and he created a lot of things. He created a transport route between Toronto and Kingston with his brother who lived in Kingston and was also quite wealthy. And I just feel like whenever people want to say, let's just tell those stories about Black people that we didn't know about. Now, where were they slaves again? And there's so much more than slavery. There were people who had a lot of success, and I just feel that they should be sharing the stage with everyone else. I just had an idea about his story that I felt that Taming of the Shrew would be a good mashup with, because there was a hoax about his daughter being sold into slavery, and that never happened, but that was my introduction to his story. So I can't ignore it, but I certainly don't want to perpetuate that myth. I really feel that Blyth is hungry for these kinds of stories, because when I was in the New Canadian Curling Club, I could not walk from where I was living to the theater without someone from town saying, oh, I'm going to take my uncle. He needs to know that the things that he's saying about people of color is just wrong and outdated, and you made me laugh, but you made me think. So I think if they felt that way about Mark Crawford's play, Mark's take on the impact of racism, they'd be ready for mine. And I love how surprised people will be to hear that there was, even by today's standards, James Mink was a millionaire over 100 years ago. I'm just so happy to share stories like that. And Blyth, you couldn't have a more loving and warm audience. I think Curling Club, every single show had a standing ovation. It was a wonderful feeling, and I can't wait to share this story with them. It's all rumors. So my relationship with Gil Garrett, Gil was in Courting Johanna, and he was wonderful. He played a bit of a rogue, but he was just so committed and so, he's a really good actor. And one of the things that I really appreciated about him, because it was my first big deal play, was that he took the time to let me know that he loved my writing, and that when there were things that needed to be changed in the rehearsal hall, like really quickly, and I would just come up with something, and he gave me compliments about that, and I needed that kind of encouragement. So it's just great to have this full circle moment of we're just friends now, and we just happen to be talking, and he just happened to be asking me what I was working on, and I told him, oh, there's this play, have you heard of James Mink, and I'm going to fictionalize his life, and he just was so amazed, and 3 days later he sent me an email saying, I can't stop thinking about this play, I have to commission it. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Gil Garrett. So even before Black Lives Matter, I had decided that I was going to put the focus in all my writing on the undertold stories, the stories of marginalized people, particularly Black people, and that I was going to find a way in my subversive way to tell people different perspectives. When I saw The Crown on Netflix and they had an episode where they shot in what was supposed to be Kenya, but it was actually South Africa, they flew all the way to Africa to shoot this moment that only lasted a few days, and none of the Black people had lines. And I just remember thinking, this is it. This is what's going on. Artists have to take charge because so much of what we think we know, we have learned from movies and TV shows and novels, and we just don't question it. So if people are going around thinking that Jesus had blonde hair and blue eyes and that there were no meaningful interactions between Princess Elizabeth and Black people in Africa, then other artists like me have to give other perspectives. I think one of the things the pandemic told me is you can make the time for things that are important. And I would always say, oh, I just have too much on my plate, I can't do it. Oh, I don't think I'm accomplished enough, I better not. And during the pandemic, it's like, please, can you distract me? I will do this. And now I'm not thinking about that thing that's going on out in the world. But some of those habits are going to stick with me, definitely. Definitely. I just want all people to just experience any kind of art with an open heart. There are people, when they think playwright, I'm the last thing that they would think of. If you ask people, who would you think? They'd think William Shakespeare, Arthur Miller. And their thought is, if that's not who's writing it, then they're probably going to beat me up. Or they're probably going to talk about how awful, white people are, or men are, or whatever. And I'd say, have an open heart, because chances are, if someone who looks like me is part of a season, I had to work really hard to get noticed. Because like I said, I'm not who you think of when you think of playwright. Be open. You're probably going to learn something that you never thought of. And that's my favorite thing, actually, when people see something of mine and say, I never thought of it that way.